Here today, dust tomorrow. We're born, go through stages, live and learn, deteriorate and die. Ironic that the time begins ticking, the sands in the hourglass begin falling, the countdown commences from the moment of birth, that a fresh new life is already moving towards its demise. There are various estimates of life expectancy. Google says 79 years here in the USA where I live, and some have gone a little over 100 years of age. Yet the quality of life diminishes as the time advances at a point after an individual's prime, so to speak, has passed. And speaking of passing, some use the expression pass away. He or she has passed away or gone out of existence. Considered a polite expression for dying, and I guess nicer than they croaked, etc. And some believe they are transferring to some otherworldly realm. Yet no one has come back from there, this supposed other side, and explained nor proven this. Didn't bring pics or vids or God's signed statement. We the living haven't visited. God hasn't sent an angel to us with an invite, and we do not know what the future holds, if anything at all. It is and will remain a mystery, despite some people's claim to know, even to be sure. There's an idea that we live within a computer-type simulation, and the program we each reside in is simply put upon a shelf after our time has expired. There's also the idea that past, present, and future exist simultaneously, and that we are in one segment of the timeline. There exist scientists who can explain this very well, and doctors and medical professionals who can explain the aging and dying process. Someone religious might provide a much simpler theory or opinion or belief of a heaven, utopia, nirvana, purgatory, or a hellish after-existence scenario, 'cause they didn't quite achieve some unrealistic, godly, righteous standard, or weren't a believer in what religion espouses, weren't spiritually born again, awakened to the salvation belonging to Jesus-ism, which is expressed as urgent to get in line with religious thinking before it's too late, to be ready for Him, arriving like a thief in the night. Another scary scenario. It's as if we just can't be ready enough. Wonder if perfection would work, 'cause I'm close to that. Geez, I better hit up the closest church and pray excessively and give up all my worldly goods to not wind up in that H place of excruciating misery. Oh, and accept and get Jesus in my heart. Can't forget that one. Or is the truth closer to, if I don't do all that, then the religious leaders may suffer the misery of being flat broke and maybe have to get a real job? Aren't we so lucky to have such a loving Sky Daddy who gives us the free will and choice to follow Him or suffer the horrendous consequences, which some feel is wholly unjustified, and that man is basically good. Some would say this is hell, that we already live in it, or create it in our own minds. I've seen people with signs saying the end is near, and for each of us as an individual that is the case. The world, well, only time will tell. Hopefully we will prove intelligent enough to avoid our own extinction and making this planet uninhabitable for any life forms on it. Yet we are really pushing it in that direction. Meanwhile, scientists in laboratories are studying life extension and cyborg technologies. Who knows what they may discover, provided we don't destroy ourselves first. Anyway, everything passes in due time. But I still dislike expressions such as live and let die and another one bites the dust. Comes across as bad taste, really worse than that, and not very empathetic sounding towards our fellow humans who want to live as much as we do. We can do better than that. I would like to see all the violent programming presently being put out on various mediums, TV, movies, etc., start to tone down, be less sensationalized, till not at all. And we go beyond it and become a kinder and more considerate world. I realize it's an art form, not real, and many have and are doing it to survive, pay their bills, buy things, put food on the table, etc. But for me, it's becoming more just background noise, something to break up the quiet, while I go to the PC for things more real, more to gain, than emotional drama, phony baloney, play and pretend. Yet, I too occasionally watch it for diversion as much as I can stand it, till I turn it off in disgust and dismay. I may wonder such things as, why do so many continue to view, even crave such programming with such seemingly indifference? How can man be so mean and cruel to man, so callous, so ready to kill, even torture unfeelingly? Nations battling each other, and over and for what? And if we aren't doing it, we are watching it being done. Really, why can't we all discuss, be civilized, and work things out? If you think that's being goody-goody, I would ask if you prefer the alternative. Or maybe you have just been one of the lucky to not experience some of the worst things as others have, and maybe can't relate. It's that empathy thing again. Some could feel it equates with weakness. I would disagree. Is world peace an impossible dream? Can only be something seen in a movie, never in reality? I would say no. Yet, haven't studied this area in more depth. Maybe others would come up with answers and get it accomplished. Hitler proved that literally millions of lives can be grabbed, corralled, and destroyed, and that no supernatural beings come hurrying to the rescue. That's scary, because some think we may be saved by such beings at the last minute before destroying ourselves. But we haven't seen any evidence of masses of people being in any way saved in wars, natural disasters, terrorist acts, etc. So why believe that somehow the future will be in any way different? Because a human said it or wrote it down, even long ago in another place and time? Some may talk of peace. Nations may have peace talks or summits. Yet, if some circumstances or event happens, are the same holding true to such noble ideas and intentions? Or would it resort again to looking out for number one, and even at a high cost or at all costs? I would like to imagine that the world is growing up and at some point will be at peace globally. All the savagery and death and destruction become things of the past. Hope that isn't just misplaced optimism. That we would take better care of this planet and be more empathetic and compassionate with one another as individuals and as nations, together on our home in the cosmos. I say further that we don't need a God to have a sense of right and wrong when it comes to dealing with each other, nor to have spirituality. I thought of the definitions of peace and of rest, tranquility, calm, restfulness, quiet, solitude, serenity, composure, contentedness, ease, and to cease work or movement in order to relax, refresh oneself, recover strength, to take a break from activity, unwind, be at leisure, take it easy, etc. How many of us in our busy daily lives actually do this? Seems it's usually up and at 'em, go, 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 strive, strive, money, money, pay, pay. And the next day it's repeated all over again, and so on. And some seem to have no peace of mind and or of body, and there are extreme examples that definitely is sad. Okay, I'll turn off the violins. I think of the 60s, flower power and free love, anti-war, and civil rights movement, peace signs, putting up two fingers symbolizing peace, people saying peace, man. Now they say peace out and have a good one. Some may still say peace be with you, and some may criticize and call it being a peace lover, as if it's something to put down. Maybe they'd rather reminisce about the good old days when they were bad boys and kicking butt, taking out the enemy in war, all those subhuman vermin who must be eliminated. And then there's the Peace Corps, helping people outside of the USA in various ways. And peace is also considered the freedom from or cessation of war and violence, and is law and order, lawfulness, harmony, suspension of hostilities, freedom from dispute or dissension between individuals, groups, or nations. There is a term peacetime when countries are not at war. Yet, review history and check how much peace has existed across the globe. And 2 world wars, with some expecting a third. Strangely, some religious actually fear a world peace, that it somehow will usher in total destruction. That is ludicrous. What it would usher in is the realization of religion's bogus doomsday intimidation and indoctrination, and of it being a tool to create fear and followers, and a supposed savior character that would come flying in on a white horse with his angelic army, or that his loyal ones, whoever they are, would rise and meet him in the air. You know, in the sky. Hope they're not afraid of heights and can get through the atmosphere. Or they may finally realize the unnecessariness of following it, and then, you know, meeting all the cult leaders. There goes the new mansion, the Mercedes, the yacht, the kids' Harvard fund. And there's the Prince of Peace. I can only imagine someone religious inventing that hypocritical expression for describing Jesus. It is written, he came not to bring peace but a sword. Let's see. Defying authorities, throwing gambling tables around, creating drama and becoming a bloody martyr, battling in heaven, battling in Armageddon, etc. Read all about it. Yet he's seen as this peace-loving guy turned super being. Doesn't sound like too peace-loving to me. Somehow does to a Jesus butt kisser. They may need something strong to pry their lips off his butt. They would literally kiss it if he asked them to. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust, coming from the ground and returning back to the ground, 'tis the cycle of life. Yes, we eat things that grow out of the ground or earth, dirt, soil, and animals of different kinds eat of it. But I came out of a mother's womb, didn't animate myself or be animated by moonlight and crawl out of a hole like Night of the Living Dead. Nor do I know how humans evolved as far as dust is concerned. Yet I do realize it is the end result of our remains, that given enough time, the bones will totally deteriorate as all matter does. And I prefer the quick way, cremation, burning my butt to a crisp. Ouch! Ha. Guessing some feel it's such a profound line, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. I guess I just don't. And how many more Bible verses do people think is just too profound, yet when examined really isn't? And someone out there has probably written an entire book saying it better and more thoroughly in more detail. Far too much credit is given these Bible writers. They would definitely have competition in our day. I think also of a formal setting where someone, likely a priest, says, "May they rest in peace." It would already be quite obvious to everyone that their body 6 feet under couldn't be more at peace. And they wouldn't hear the words, quite likely not be floating around and watching. That would be complete speculation. I also don't believe a God would drop all he's doing to tune in to a boring ceremony and repetitive words that have been repeated over and over throughout history. And how would he focus on a pinpointed area of Earth anyway as it rotates and revolves? The simple-minded wouldn't factor these details in. I would like to hear a priest or religious person explain how this could be done, and from far away, and minus the magic theory. or saying some dumb thing like, "He's God, he just can. The Lord works in mysterious ways," etc. That is no explanation whatsoever. And the Bible speaks of angels appearing and doing things and interacting with people. Did they beam down from a ship? Did they fly here with wings and a magical aura or barrier that protects them from space and the atmosphere? Just how long does it take to fly here from heaven? Did they use wormholes? Warp 10? If heaven is there, why can't we go visit? Not possible for Mr. All-Everything? Or would we somehow taint the exclusive club? Oh, but we are just to believe it, while never seeing it. And not even his special ones? Would they not think giving us real proof is necessary or a good thing? So the angels seem to appear just as an event is unfolding, just at the right times. And why, if they can appear so quickly, don't they now? Or maybe they got too old, just not the angels they used to be. And so about saying rest in peace, it seems a contradiction to the religious and what they have been preaching. This rest they mention, this interval between death and the reanimation procedure, the so-called resurrection done by Sky Daddy, they are completely out of it, not resting, and assuming it was where they would not notice the lapse in time from lights out to wowee, I'm back. And if it's the heaven and hell ideas on where your spirit goes, or maybe after purging all the nagging unrighteousness, in purgatory, all that remaining terribleness, because we are so awful. Seems none of these three options could be considered resting in peace. Purgatory and hell, not peaceful. And I would assume heaven would be exciting and interesting if it was real. I wouldn't be at peace, but curious, wanting to check it out, talk to angels, God, etc. So really, what good is it to anyone, God, the dead, or the living, to stand around and say the words? Who says we must follow ridiculous traditions of the religious? I say no, let's not waste the time. So, do some feel God pats you on the back from his alternate or parallel universe or 11th dimension and says, "Well read. Thanks for keeping up the tradition"? Really? Why create death in the first place? And not just us, but all living things. And so I suggest a simple, cheap service where the body is still intact and can be viewed by anyone present, then the cremation afterwards. I think cremations ought to become the norm, and funerals and burials, etc. phase out, become passé, obsolete, no longer. Funeral homes wouldn't exactly be leaping for joy at this idea, losing out on their exorbitant, overinflated fees in exchange for the body furnace option. There goes Susie's new car after graduation and the family vacation to Hawaii. I say too that all caskets everywhere on earth be dug up, used if possible for other things, or destroyed if unusable, or, too far decayed. I could just hear a guy saying, "Dang, that thing cost me $8,000. Now look at it." And so, take all of the bodies and the bones that are there and have them cremated. And no more urns. The dust simply put back into the earth. Dust to dust. Seemed logical to put the dust right with the soil. No more caskets, urns, or containers of any kind are needed. Also, remove all the tombstones, mausoleums, paved roads and pathways, and the land fixed up and made useful for the living. That it's a waste of land and space that could be used in better ways, maybe such as parks, wildlife areas, etc., whatever. How would this in any way be disrespecting those who have died? They aren't around, have no use for such things. And besides, cemeteries aren't exactly the happiest places to visit and waste precious time talking to no one but yourself. So, are the saints, whoever they would be, turning in their graves by now? I think not. And of course, the religious would passionately object, protest, maybe whine a little or a lot, out of sheer ignorance and non-thinking. But hopefully there would come a day when the severely indoctrinated would all be gone, have died out, and religion become a thing of the past. Then it would no longer be an issue. And a new generation arise that is beyond all that nonsense, working on making it a better world for everyone, leaving religion and all the divisiveness it causes and conflict behind where it belongs. Fully realizing it has no place in a progressive world that wishes to advance and come together as one unified human race. Now about the so-called dearly departed. About when people get up and speak at the podium some words for the one who has died. I say they should be honest about how they feel, about their thoughts of the person. If they had good experiences, then mention it. If they felt they were wonderful, say that. If not, then say that. Not feel like it's doing the right thing, being proper, etc., and then basically lying. How many do that and are pretentious? Or just don't have the guts to tell it like it is? I say one isn't under any obligation whatsoever to be dishonest or avoid telling it. Saying the truth would be good for self and probably benefit the people there in some way. I don't see benefit in sugarcoating. If they were lousy, say so. I can sugarcoat a turd, but it still remains a turd. It could end in a good note, something to the effect that they were a fellow human being, etc. But not to be a hypocrite, no false high praise. I imagine there's a lot of that. And then to not drag out grieving for too long, but seek friends and loved ones. Discuss it, get through it, and move on. It may not be easy, but life needs to go on again. How many have allowed the death of someone close to ruin their own health and minds without stopping to think that they still have their own lives to consider and the people in their lives? Or maybe they can meet new people, get new support. I wonder just how many have been brought down and even committed suicide when it could have been avoided. There needs to be almost a rewiring of the brain, a forcing of oneself out of that very sad place. And hopefully people will do more than say beautiful service and the sending of flowers, although both are nice gestures. The bereaved needs support. And also, so why wear black at a funeral? Everyone in black, 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 black. It dates back to the Roman Empire. So, do we need to follow those old ways? I say no. It seems unnatural and sort of depressing for the living that are attending. Wearing color doesn't mean now you're partying and celebrating. Seems to actually be reaffirming life. It's as if color now needs putting away, lest we have anything uplifting, optimistic, happy, as if we dare not crack a smile. Just seems to make it more of a downer. Last thoughts. If a god or ETs decide to set lifespan limits for all the life forms, they seem to not figure it well, not be fair. Why would turtles or trees live longer than us? And king of eternity? Then what are we, the court jesters of in a jiffy? And maybe it's not a good idea to entertain notions that the dead are still around, that somehow you feel or know they are there. I say that's delusional thinking, not healthy. Finally, seems somewhat of a shame that many seem to have little or no real peace in their lives, and only do when the struggle is over. Can we somehow make the world move at a slower pace? Eliminate striving for things we really don't need. Do more for the less fortunate. Earlier retirements. Work less and play more. Not go to the grave too soon.